toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Head toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling?
And I just didn't know about anything about credit. And obviously, like when you are young, especially teenager, you don't think about credit at all, right? That's not
No.
your, not something you think about. So for me, when it's only when I was like starting my first job out of college. I think that's the first time I like realized that, oh shit, I need to get my own apartment, I need to buy a car, I need to figure things out on my own because my parents couldn't really guide me or help me because they are not from here and they were always based in Asia. They never moved here officially, so I felt like okay, I'm on my own, but credit is something I couldn't really figure out very well.
That's so interesting because I think that, when you don't grow up here and your parents don't grow up here, I can't imagine being introduced to this idea of credit just blindly. Because, my parents tried to teach me about credit and I didn't care. Like you said, teenagers don't care. And I remember, so when I started college, it was before, I think it was Obama who signed it in law that you basically couldn't prey on 18-year-olds for a credit card application, but it was before that. And I remember walking into school my first day of college, and there was all of these credit card companies. And I was like, oh my God, I'm rich. This is so exciting. And I signed up for everyone. I was a waitress and I racked up the cards, at Saks. And I just didn't think about it. So I can only imagine like what it's like to depend on having to know a little bit about credit because you can't do anything. You can't buy a house, you can't buy a car, you can't even get an apartment. So, what was it like? Because I know like you are such a high achieving person. When you do something, you do it 200%. What was that experience like trying to get a lease on an apartment or trying to get a loan on a car? Like what did that feel like?
Yeah, so I think first, like I want to know like what it is, right? I think it's like getting rejected. Okay, I'm rejected. Like why? And then when I find out about the why, for me it's like okay, that does not logically make sense because because the reason I was told is, well, Christy, you don't have a credit history in the US. And for me, I'm like, well, I've been living here for a really long time and I spent a lot of money here like right the college tuition and like living expenses. I spent a lot of money here in the United States all in my debit card, and my parents, they are both small business owners in South Korea. Their money was spent here and I do have history of spending a lot of money here, and now I have a job so I make money in the US.
Right.
So like isn't it not enough, right, for me to prove that I am credit worthy. But the answer was, well, doesn't matter because you never borrowed anything. So I was like, well, nobody told me that I need to borrow when I'm able to afford, right? When I'm able to afford things without having to borrow, why does it work against me?
Right.
No, like logically doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. Was there anybody like in that period of time that advised you like how to go about getting a credit score?
You know what's funny is because at the time, all my coworkers were like American, born and raised here. All my like white colleagues, they're like, "Oh, you don't have a credit score? What's wrong with you?" Like I have one. Everyone had one. So I feel like I had no sympathy in from my office. And then,
Okay.
but I remember. Oh yeah, but like one colleagues, he just told me that. I remember he told me, hey, Christy, like no one buys a car full in cash. You should get an auto loan. Because I think that was the time I was thinking about buying a car because I was living in San Francisco. Office was in San Francisco too, but I had clients down in Peninsula. I had to like go to meet them. And I really didn't want to like take car train all the time. So I was like, I want to, buy a car so I can do my job better.
Right,
Right.
right.
So, um, okay, I will buy a car. And we are talking about me buying a car and then like me finally passing my driver license. All that. And then he told me that, oh yeah, Christy, you should get an auto loan because here in the US, everyone gets an auto loan. So I'm like, well, I have money. Like, do I really have to borrow? Like the loan, loan, like I never had a loan. I didn't have a student loan. I had no loan. So wait, isn't it like risky to have a loan? But he's like, no, no, like here, Christy, everyone has an auto loan. The first car, everyone like buy with a loan. Like it's very rare that people will spend their own cash for it. So that's
Right.
why I initially went to like Lexus and BMW and then asked them, told them that I want to apply for an auto loan.
Okay.
Yeah, even just the idea that I should get an auto loan was because my colleague gave me advice. So
Okay.
that's why I went in and asked for it. And then they are like, no, you are rejected. So I ended up buying my car all in cash. And I felt very bitter about it because like here my amazing colleague like is giving me the life tips of how to like, live adult life in the US and he tells me to get an auto loan and I want to, but I'm getting rejected. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That has to be so frustrating, especially when you are, you have the money to pay for it. You are responsible, you're going to pay for it, you have the cash and the job and to back it up. And then just because you don't have that number, attached to your name that you just can't, I can only imagine how frustrating that is. So one thing I've always been curious about that I actually don't know the answer to is from that period in your life to the beginning of Tomo Credit, and I mean like the first day that Tomo Credit was a thing, how did you decide? Like, did you just wake up one day and say, I am going to have a startup that solves this problem? What was that initial what was that initial moment of, okay, I'm going to own a company and I'm going to solve this problem?
So great question. I never planned uh for it. And then I didn't like have a set plan that okay, I want to start this company. So I think when the experience with getting rejected from auto loan happened, that was like so long ago. Like I was like baby, like like fresh out of college in my first job. And I couldn't be distracted so much about like why am I getting rejected? Like I had to like digest fast, figure out fast. That's why I ended up just buying a car with cash because I'm like, I cannot like wait around and then build my credit score slowly and gradually, over time. Because I need to do a good job and get promoted next year, right? Like I cannot waste my time. So that's why I was like, okay, like buy my car with cash. I called my dad and like, okay, I need help. I cannot get an auto loan and even like getting an apartment,